Welcome. My name is Doug Fairbairn, and I'm here to interview Sohn, longtime executive, entrepreneur, leading technologist of Silicon Valley. And it is September 28th, 2023, and look forward to this conversation. So welcome.
Oh, thank you, Douglas.
So in these oral histories, we really like to start at the beginning. Tell me a little bit about where you were born, when, a little bit about your family life, especially as it might have influenced your future direction in technology. So just go back and tell me about early days of family life and that sort of thing.
Great. Well, I was born in Korea, like many of entrepreneurs and management in Silicon Valley tend to come from everywhere, which is what makes this place great in my view, other than weather. And I was born there, and then my family decided to immigrate to US when I was 15. My father and my mother was at Berkeley. So they were familiar with the country and the system, and they thought it's a better place to raise the family here. Actually, the truth is my father passed away with a car accident, so my mother decided. For back then, for women to raise 3 boys were really hard in Korea. Women couldn't get a job back then. So my mom just said, I think I better get back to US, and I'm going to...
She had attended Berkeley?
Yeah, she was supporting my father and going to school.
Oh my gosh.
And she decided to go back and got an internship in the US. And basically, we were separated for a while. So I was really growing up with my grandma because she was back in the US getting her master's and then establishing herself and got a job in Washington, D.C. And this is how we came to United States, land of opportunity.
So you say you have 2 siblings?
Yes.
And are they in Korea or here in
the US? They are
US?
all here. So basically, we all went to school in the US. And then we grew up in the D.C. area, basically. It was great. And I really didn't speak much English back then, so like many immigrants, you just have to dive in and be a part of, American lifestyle. I just remember my first day going to this high school, coming from Korea. My mother said, oh, I used to wear a suit and tie. And this is a public school. Yeah. And I went there realizing, shoot, I'm the only one with a tie. When you're that age, you're very aware. And immediately I took that off and I went to shopping to get us some better clothing that fits the culture better.
Yeah. So you were 15 when you came here. And so what grade did you enter here?
10th grade. 10th grade. I was going into 16, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And did your mother have any technical background, or were you any sign of technical interest at that time, or?
She was a nutrition side, so she's I guess the food science. Okay. Yeah.
And in Korea, had you shown any interest in technology or anything in that area, or was that something that developed later?
I think when I was a kid, I liked mathematics, but I didn't think anything special because in system there's so many people pushing every dimension to get to better colleges. And then I think really what happened is, I would really say when I come to US, I realized that, my preparation in mathematics was so much better than the local school. I got my confidence. And once you get confidence, you can do anything at that age. Right. So that's really what happened. I realized I can be really good at this. And I pushed it harder. Like my mom said, you're welcome to America and you need to work because that's what you all do. So I worked as a janitor for 20 hours a week. I was a member of Teamsters Union. Oh my. And, working like $3 an hour, which back then, 70s is a lot of money for a young kid. I even bought a car out of this. So the important thing was that I said, you know what, I'm going to clean this elementary school rooms in very fast, and I got like 1.5 hours left. And I used that big chalkboard and doing mathematics and equations and stuff like that, just to, take my time. And that really helped me. So I got my confidence, and I was like reinforcing my confidence by practicing it. And then, when I was graduating, because then you get the award for best mathematics student, best science student. So those are the kind of things kind of build you in a new country. And this is a country where, anybody can shine if they put it right energy to it. And I think I was very lucky to have that. And I had some good friends to help me to push. I even had an English teacher. I remember Mrs. Jones. And she didn't have to do it, but she came 1 hour early every day and just taught me English. Oh, wow. Like she went through Sears catalog. I never seen Sears catalog in America, but it's like this is what it is, and kind of teach me how to pronounce and how to think about it. So I will never forget that special touch that I got. Back then there was not many immigration in that school that I was in. There were like 2,800 kids. And just me and my brother are the two Koreans, immigrants. Yeah.
I was wondering, it must have been very difficult.
It was different, for sure. My mother is a very preparation-driven lady, so she makes sure some of their friends, kids, hang out to help us to get used to school. So that helped. Then I played sports, and sports is a great equalizer.
Yeah, absolutely. So you obviously excelled in math, and you say science, and I'm sure that given your mother had gone to university as well, that it was expected that you would then move on to university. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, soon I have to figure out how to take SAT test and AP classes, getting ready. So. And I applied for engineering program basically because I thought that would be the best place to get a job and apply my background. So I went to University of Pennsylvania.
How did you choose University of Pennsylvania?
I had a few options, but they gave me the most money. Coming from single mom, I just looked at the decision basically, how do I reduce the pain? And get the best education. And that was the equation. I could have went some other schools in Michigan, Cornell, and others, but that was the equation. And that worked out really well. Also, it's only 2 hours away from my home. And that was also very convenient.
So tell me about your college time. Were there people or subjects that you gravitated to? Are there particular professors that had an impact on your future direction?
Yeah, Penn Engineering School wasn't that big. Actually, a small program, like EE program, was only about 30 people. So it was very intimate, and I worked with a professor, Kettler, and he actually gave me a job. I always need a job to go to school to support, because I don't expect anything from my family. So I was an income generator, always. Ever since I stepped in this country, I always made money.
Always made money.
Because I just didn't want to be a burden to my mom, So then I worked 20 hours a week again at college and worked with Dr. Kettler. Anything he needs, He said, I need a breadboard, I need to do this. And I was working on those.
So this was in electronics?
Yeah, electronics. And then I also did sports. So I was a varsity sports program. So I have to also train 30, 40 hours a week. So,
oh my gosh. So what sports were you involved in?
I went in as a soccer program, but I transferred to fencing program because my roommate was a fencer, and I kind of looked it up, Robert. And it's like, he's kind of a big guy. He doesn't look that fast, and I was much faster than him. So I said, maybe I can join a fencing team and fly with him to different schools, because he's already flying all over. When you're a soccer program, JV team, you have to wait until you grow up to be a varsity team. So I just didn't want to wait. So I became a fencer.
So you really excelled at that, didn't you?
Yeah, it turned out to be a good sport for me because size doesn't matter. It's about quickness. It's about also outsmarting your opponent. So I became captain of the team. We won NCAA 1979, and then I was all Ivy. So I was very happy to do that track.
Wow. So what year did you enter college?
75.
75. Mm-hmm. And you graduated in 79?
Right.
Mm-hmm. And at that point, how did you view your future? What did you want to do, be, what were your goals at that time?
Well, I actually already thought about, I want to be an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. So there was a new program at the time, as I think this may be pioneered at the time, called Technology and Management program, which was the first initial program that came out of Penn. Wharton School and Moore School joint combinations. So I was the first class that graduated for the program. So I got EE and management in the technology management programs. So mainly because I knew that I would love to be my own boss someday, but I didn't know how. So I took the classes. But and after that I got a job, Hewlett Packard, which happens to be just an hour away from Penn campus. And the reason that I want to stay in Penn campus was that I was training for Olympics. And I was
in fencing.
In fencing, I was in U.S. Olympic squad, and I couldn't really go too far away from where my maestro was. So the fencing gym is my really world, and Hewlett Packard was how I paid my bill for a while, and it was a great company. I got to meet two founders who came out to Avondale division, where we were. Avondale is in the middle of a mushroom country, but one of the things they did was a gas chromatography. So it was a way to analyze compounds that are out there. So I was working there on the computer side of it to analyze data that are coming out of the analytic machines and then figure out what's in there. And that was a part of my job, and it was really fun job. I learned a lot. I realized I learned the theory, but I was really learning the practice at work.
So you met David Packard and Bill Hewlett. They came by and
that's great. It's like meeting the pioneers, right? Yeah.
So you took this job after graduation, but you wanted to stay around for the Olympic. How did that work out?
Well, I was training, and I was top 12 in the nation. So now, as you know, 6 goes to Olympic Games, and what happened is then Russia, the Soviets invade Afghanistan, and so U.S. decided to boycott Olympic game. So I was disillusioned with that, and I was searching for what to do because I was really a fencer first and engineer second. So now I have to really re-look at my priority in my life, and I decided to go back to graduate school. So this is when I decided to go to MIT and went back to management school actually because I want to really become learning more about the management science of it. And so I went to MIT in Boston, 1981.
So you spent a year at Hewlett Packard approximately?
2 years.
2 years? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. So that was probably a good experience in terms of learning the Hewlett Packard culture and how they ran the company and so forth.
It was a great company. I loved the trust state on people. Mm-hmm. And I had this guy, Randy. He was my mentor. Mm-hmm. And he's so kind, and he told me so much. I'll never forget that, And you want to be like that to your new people that are coming in your work, because you want to share the same kind of sense of that, sharing and teaching.
Well, that's great. So you decided to go to the Sloan School of Management. Were there other options that you explored, or was that the one you focused on that you wanted to go to?
I think MIT was a very good target for me because I really want to combine technology and continue to explore what's possible on the top of that with learning the management science. Mm-hmm. So it was just good of my choice. And Stanford would have been the other one, but back then it was too far away from my home. Right. Yeah.
So was this a 2-year program?
It's a 2-year program.
And what were the major learnings experienced there? How did that change your course or reinforce your course?
So there's a guy named Mitch Kapoor who was in the program, and he was building this product company called Lotus 123. And what happened is when I was at MIT, I was working with professors to teach executives how to use this idea of a PC, personal computer. So Apple II was just out. So my job was setting up the class, 50 Apple II computers, figure out how to network them, and then develop the softwares, teach how to use, like, I remember basic programming. So I have to write some programs to write basics so that, you know, people coming in the industry, they can learn how to use personal computer. Now, this is kind of funny, but back then this was new stuff. And someone had to teach them. And, you know, I was getting paid like $5,000 per class. So I was really, really motivated with the two of my fellow students setting up these classes. And they all want to come to MIT for a program.
So what about the educational program itself? Were there professors or, you mentioned Mitch Kapoor, actually, he has set up a foundation and the museum is working very closely with him today. I mean, they were going to be there's going to be a program at the museum in the next month involving them in their program.
I have a lot of students.
On diversity and so forth. So.
Yeah. So back to MIT.
Yeah.
So you know, I really got too involved with a personal computer industry side of it because of the projects I did. And the MIT is great because MIT is very open class. So I took classes at, you know, Harvard Business School. I took courses in the, we call course 6, which is the computer science at MIT. And so you spend time in other disciplines, and that's the playground you have. And I just love that learning environment. But what I really decided to do was, the Mitch Kapoor was he was a couple of years ahead of us at Sloan, and he set up this startup. And I was really inspired about this personal computer transition that are happening and developing software companies around it. So I decided to set up my own company. So I went over and see Mitch, and I said, Mitch, you know, maybe I can help you, you know, moving your products in overseas. Since I come from overseas and my partner is Swiss, maybe we can go after European market. And Mitch goes, you know, I want to control my own destiny. I'm like, okay, all right. I tried to help him, but that was not an option. So we decided to set up our own software company called Tektra. And
what was the name?
Tektra, Tektra.
Okay.
And the idea was really creating a first database product for international market, and then moving that into European side as the PC is getting introduced to Europe. The only problem is Europe wasn't quite ready for PC. So we set up a company in Geneva because Geneva, you know, supposedly you're not supposed to pay tax if you make a lot of money back then. It's a theory though, because it only matters if you make money. But it turned out making money was much tougher than I thought. You know, we got to have a good product. We got to have it turned out you also need to get customers. And European customers do not buy package like Americans do. Right. They need the training. Yeah. They need the support. So we hired 20 students from ETH, which is the best engineering school in Switzerland, ETH. This was the Einstein school. Yeah. And train them, help them to learn, and then go out there educating people. But you know, that is a very slow process. So I learned a lot about the business. And at that moment, realized that maybe I better find a real job that I can pay rather than keep doing this entrepreneurship. Because by then, I had $25,000 at the time from my HP days. I saved those money and using for my entrepreneurship, but that was gone. So then.
So how long did you spend developing Tektra?
We were doing it from dorm room at MIT. So second year of my, so 1982, and then did it up to about 84 time frame. So 2 years, 2.5 years. Meanwhile, I need to find some source of money. So Intel happens to be called my door and asked me to come in to see if I have an interest in coming to Silicon Valley. So we did. We packed and came over, joined Intel, hoping my startup will go somewhere.
Who's we? You and your partner?
My wife and I and my partner. We all worked together.
Okay.
She was the office manager. And eventually I realized, it's not going to work. So then I realized that Intel had to be my primary job.
So had you ever been out to Silicon Valley? Did you understand what Silicon Valley was all about?
Oh, Hewlett Packard had several visits to main campus. So every time I come, I just remember sunshine. Yeah, I just remember people are much happier. Yeah.
So you came out to Intel in '84, is that right?
Yeah. So actually, late '83.
'83.
Yeah.
And did you have your choice of jobs? Did they have something in particular?
They had a very thorough interview process. And I had a job as a product manager, that was the title. And my product was a product called 82586. And you may not know what that is, but it was the first Ethernet controller.
Oh yeah, I do. I didn't recognize the name, but I certainly recognize the technology. That was out of the partnership with Xerox.
Exactly, I was going to
right?
say. I think it's
Bob Metcalf and
exactly Xerox and DAC and Intel. They decided to agree. Finally, some open protocol they can share information together, right? And I think internet wouldn't be around without that kind of agreement and arrangement that was made. So that was my product. And it goes, okay, your first job, your product, and I have to write a manual because we're now about to introduce product soon. So I have to put together a manual, and you have to put together training, and then you have to manage the product life cycle. It was a good way to learn about tech industry, about the product, managing product life cycle, and just promoting product, and being able to involved with what I call Intel's cross-platform product platform team, which is tough. Intel culture was very different than Hewlett Packard back then. And I remember in HP, I always smiled when I was coming out of meeting, very happy. Intel, when I've come out of my meeting, my stomach is upside down. It's very accountability driven and very much demanding, and was also confrontational. And I was not used to
constructive confrontation.
Yes, I was not. You can say constructive, but at the end of the day, any confrontation cannot be too constructive. So I just remember I did not feel good. First year of coming out of these meetings. I'm not coming from culture where confront always. And it took about a year to get used to, and I became very good at it. So I became pretty good at managing what I need to do. And then there was late 1984, I got a call from Andy Grove's office that they are looking for me. I'm like, I went over there to see him. And he goes, Young, I need someone to go to Korea with me. And I look around and I think you're one of few Korean-speaking product guy, not the engineer, but product guy, that maybe you can come with me, help me to see the potential options to find a partner in Korea. Because we, back then, if you recall, Intel invented many of memory products, but they were not being able to keep up with Japanese. And Japanese were killing them, to be honest. So our market share was going down. It's about shutting it down or finding some other option. So Andy decided to call Korea, basically. So my job was working with him to figure out who would be the best person. I'm 25, I'm not that experienced yet. But I am his back boy, and we traveled there, and basically with a couple of other executives in between, right? Larry Hutnick and the Frank Gill. So we're all involved. But basically, I was now with the senior management team in Intel, mainly because my qualification is I speak Korean. The thing he didn't know is I came to US when I was young. My Korean sucked. But he didn't know.
Had you been back to Korea
No,
anytime?
no.
Never.
The only Korean I spoke was at school with and my family. That was about it. Yeah. So I have to really brush up my Korean very quickly to be sure that I can conduct some business. Mm-hmm. So basically, we traveled together, and then I think we spent a year. Initially, LG was going to win because they were the nice guys and they liked the partnership. But actually, Samsung is the one that really came through because basically I'll give a lot of credit to Chairman Lee, the founder. His name is Lee Byung-chul, and Byung-chul Lee. And he's the founder of Samsung Group. So, and he decided this is too important to lose. So he himself got involved. We met him 5 times. And I'll never forget this one meeting.
Over several visits.
Yeah, or several, like this is, I'm talking now 2 years period. Okay. So I remember this one meeting in the early on that Andy is going to meet Chairman Lee. Mm-hmm. So now we need to, we're going in. And as I'm going in, some Samsung management person stopped me. You cannot go in, you're too young. I'm like, oh, wait, but Andy needs me. So Andy looked around, goes, what's going on? He said, well, they think I'm not qualified to go into this meeting. And Andy goes, I'll never forget what he said. If he doesn't go in, I don't go in. Most people may not say that. And he just walked right in with me, and I said, I have a picture from that moment, and I had such a respect for Andy, for standing for what he believes. Mm-hmm. And I think it's another good lesson you learn from your mentors and your leaders, This is how you learn, right? Because looking at the thing in action, because he could easily said, yeah, don't worry, he's a young man, why don't you wait for me, I'll go in and deal with it.
So you got to travel with Andy over this period of a couple of years and lots of interactions.
The best part is 1985. So we had an Intel-Samsung agreement, which has basically Samsung make product for you under the Intel brand, under the Intel patents, and on the Intel quality program. So we were basically creating Samsung as our, what do you call the ODM, manufacturing partner. Right. And I think Samsung had a long-term game plan, and Intel had a short-term game plan. Right. So to the 1985, as we signed the contract, now the Dr. Noyce was there, Andy was there, Goldemore was there. They all looked at me and goes, young man, we need to stay in Korea and manage this. So I'm kind of looked around and go, sure, why not? so I moved to Korea, and I spent 5 years managing Intel Korea, Intel Samsung joint venture project. Oh my gosh! It was not planned, but it was fun.
So your wife was Korean?
No, my wife is not Korean.
Oh, okay.
But she learned Korean, and our kids were born in Korea. And we got special discount whenever she speaks this blonde hair, blue eyes, speaking Korean, we get 10% discount without even asking, because back then, who speak Korean? Right? This is the 80s. It's not like today where Korea is like top 10, one of the best living country now. Yeah. Per capita income is actually exceeding Japan. So today is like this. But back then, Korea was really poor. It was like upcoming, but nobody knew. Mm-hmm. And so it was a really fun time to be there as you see that Korean Olympic Games, and Korea is really evolving. Samsung was evolving, and I was just part of that history, and I was just contributing. And in many ways, Intel contributed a lot for Samsung's progress in semiconductor, because I remember we had like 1,000 rooms per year for our engineers to come in to support, quality control, process control. and a lot of other business transfer.
So it's huge technology transfer.
It was. It's one of the massive ones.
From Intel to Samsung.
Exactly. I think that really helped, because what happened is within 5 years later, so 10 years from the moment we signed the agreement, Samsung became #1 in memory business. And I believe that absolutely Samsung investment, Samsung's DNA led it. But I think Intel was a big portion of the contributing factor.
Right. Was the government also supporting Samsung? Was there?
Oh, I'm sure back then, industrial policies, but I really don't know the details, how that worked. All I know is this Intel and Samsung partnership. There, I know my own office in Korea grew from 0 to 200 people in 4 years.
Wow. What years were that?
It was 85 till 89 that I stayed there.
Wow. So you were very young, but you had a huge experience.
I learned so much more because I was running my own program locally with a massive partners and highly visible program at Intel. So it was a great career builder. You know, you just have to be at the right place and lucky, right? It was one of those things that helped me to give me an opportunity to work with some great people.
Yeah, well, that sounds like a tremendous experience, being able to work with the top management at both Samsung and Intel.
Right.
So you've now worked at Hewlett Packard and Intel, two of the most famous companies for strong corporate cultures and so forth. What came out of that in terms of your own personal belief? Did you find yourself more attracted to the Intel approach, to the Hewlett Packard approach, Samsung? You know, tell me a little bit about how those helped shape your philosophy.
I think a lot of our management thinking does shape early, in my view. And I think it also to do with the people you work with, because those are two things that reinforcing functions. I think what I learned from Hewlett Packard was really about empowering people and compassion, and the thinking about the whole community you're in. So, you know, I think the Hewlett Packard was all about how you're playing in the community, and that I think is very important. What I learned from Intel is about being paranoid and being really driving for the outcome, not just working at it, but for the outcome. And finding the people that can help you to get there. So those two combinations, I was very lucky because every job I had in Intel, it was a new kind of assignment. So I was really trained to create new things. And I think I got so much empowerment. You know, setting up Korean office when there's zero, there's nothing there. Saying, you know, young man, and go there, set up an office now since the contract is done. And then here's a $70,000 check, by the way. So I have no idea. I never set up an office in overseas and hiring people. And, you know, so you just do it. That's that kind of trusting that you can do it and empowering you, that was Intel. I didn't have to be old. I didn't have to prove everything. If they believe in you, you got empowerment, you go for it. And you can fail, but I think they trust that you can learn from it. And I learned a lot from the management. And I try to practice those two things, thinking about the community and working as a team, but very driven, very paranoid, and get the results done.
So what brought that to an end? How did you wind down your involvement with Intel, and then you later moved on to Quantum? Was that the next?
Right. Yeah. So you know, Intel has a program called sabbatical program. So every 7 years, you know, you get like 7 weeks, right? So, but I didn't have time to take sabbatical, so I waited until 10th year. So then I finally got sabbatical, and so we bought a camper. We went around I want to check out all the national parks of America, especially West Side. So we drove to Jackson Hole, you know, we went to the Glacier National Park, went up to Canada, and just really explored. And we spent camping for 7 weeks.
My gosh.
And then
So you and your wife, and you have children?
Yeah, I had 2 kids.
2 kids?
Yeah, so the pop-up tent.
Okay.
It was great. I learned so much, and such a beautiful country. And, it's just so peaceful out there with nature. And then I get this phone call from someone asking whether I was interested in talking to quantum. His name is John Carter. I'll never forget. John Carter was basically headhunter at Egon Gender. And they were looking for someone to help them to come in to build Asia as a head of Asia, basically. And I said, no, I'm not interested in, I'm sabbatical. But you know what happens in sabbatical? You have time to think.
Yeah. Disconnect a little from your
Yeah.
daily.
Yeah, because I was very happy at Intel. But actually, I think same time, when you're disconnected for whole, like 2.5 months, I said, why don't I just spend a day and just listen to what they are doing? So they flew me in to Milpitas and spend a day with the management team. And I think there's a guy named Michael Brown, who was the CEO of Quantum. I really liked Michael. And I decided, you know what? Now I can just work with the CEO much closer. Whereas Intel, it could take a long time to get there. So they also made me president of Asia. So I was, once again in charge. So one of the issues many times when you're expat, when you go overseas and come back, you forget your freedom you had, your empowerment. And it's because you are the king when you're out there. Right. And you make decisions. Of course, you're part of corporation, but you are empowered to make decisions. Right. When you come back to corporation, although I had a general management job and I was managing my P&L, still there's many people you have to deal with that tell you where to go. And
so before your sabbatical, had you moved back to the U.S.?
Yes, I did. Yeah, 89 I came back and I created a business group, which is the genesis of Intel's chipset business. Okay. So actually the way we did it is kind of funny. We, because I know that you worked at BSEE, right? You were one of the founding members. Yeah. And what happened is that I got back from Asia. And Intel was getting attacked by this company called Chip and Technologies. And so I wrote a letter to Andy Grove because I am so close with him. Said, Andy, I think you should not let your CPU isolated from chipsets and peripherals because if you don't control, you may lose your CPU socket. So we should create something to enable Intel x86 to sustain its position. And this is where Andy goes, okay, he called me. I got home and my wife goes, Andy Grove called. I'm like, oh, really? Okay. So I called him back. Well, young man, what do you want to do? It's like, I think we should create a chipset business, and protect our CPU position. And he goes, okay, why don't you figure out how to do it? How many people do you need? I don't know. I need about 20 people. I kind of winged it. And okay, you can have 20 people. Come down to Santa Clara and make it happen. So I came back to, corporate building, Santa Clara 4. And now my job is to figure out how to solve that problem. So I talk about problem statement. Well, so now my first thing I did was there were about 7 other companies that are competing with Chip and Tech. One of them was VLSI. Right. So I went to Phoenix to visit the business group that are working on this product called TopCat.
Right. Oh, boy, I haven't heard that name for a long time.
And I met this guy named Doug. And
Doug Bartek.
Doug Bartek, he was the head of that group.
Yeah.
And he looked at me and goes, we never trust Intel for partnership. I don't think, they are not a good partners. But then after I spent some time with him, he goes, anybody that fly to Phoenix in August must be serious. So we made a deal where Intel, I learned a lot from Samsung Intel partnership. I'm trying to do exactly the same thing what Intel did in Samsung on memory. I'm trying to do it on chipset. So I said, Doc, we have a CPU, you have a chipset, we can come together and we can compete against Chip and Tech and others. So we made a deal where the product is going to be Intel product. So now I have to talk to my boss, his name is David House. So you know David House.
Oh yes,
and
quite well.
David House goes, okay, we need to agree on name. So why don't you come on up? Let's spend some time working on our names. So he and I get together, looking at, we talk about numbers. We're not even taking some creative names. Is it 340? Is it 350? Is it 380? Some names, which is numbers. So we're doing names, and then all of a sudden, this is like remember the 1989 with the earthquake? Holy cow. All of a sudden, I see the ceiling is like moving at Santa Clara Fall. And I'm looking, I'm still very young, I'm talking and I'm trying to present my case for David House. But I don't see David House. Like, where did he go? I realized he's already under the table. He was much quicker than me, and I'm a little nervous as a young manager, presenting my case. I wasn't going to just go under the table. So both of us went under the table and talking about the numbers. I'll never forget that one, how you have a certain moment of memory. Yeah. So the product is going to be 82340. So we agreed on number. That become our product. And then my job was to figure out how to make that as a number one chipset business, which we did. 0 to 30% market share using the VLSI chipset. And VLSI, and we decided to create a platform. Because I said, you cannot just sell chips by itself. We need to create a solution. So I went to Taiwan, and basically I remember the seminar called, we should create a, back then, if you remember, late 80s, all the laptop was made by Japanese. Mm-hmm. So my position was, Taiwan can build laptop too, mm-hmm. and we can help you. And we'll create a program called VIP. VIP stands for VLSI, Intel, Phoenix Technologies. We're going to work together to create a reference platform that we'll give it to you, and you can replicate it.
And build PCs. And
create laptops. Yeah. So this is the beginning of notebook. And we create this initial kick, which was a solution-driven. So what's new at Intel wasn't about this P&L of this new business. It gave them a new way of marketing CPU, which is called solution. Mm-hmm. So that group, as you know, is a very important group today. Yeah. But back then, it was a new concept because Intel was selling CPUs and memories and others, but not as a solution, not with operating system, not with ready-to-go programs. And so we had a lot of fun for 3 years, and we built that business. And then I took sabbatical, so then I went over to quantum.
Interesting. So after the sabbatical, did you just not return to Intel? Did you basically start quantum at the end of your sabbatical? Is that the...
That's exactly what happened. So I accepted the job offer, and I quit after sabbatical. So this is why I spent Intel about 11 years.
So what was from a technical point of view, or business point of view, what was attractive about quantum? You had a booming business at Intel, it sounded like, so there must have been, not only like the CEO, but there must have been something about the company and its products.
Right. Well, there's just three things. One was that I want to go back to Asia. So I can set up my own Asian organization, which I did in Singapore. Okay. I also had a chance to build a plant, to build products in Singapore. So that was new to me, and I wanted something that I can really hands-on. Second thing is that I became part of inner management team. So all the key decision was made. The technology was very challenging because now I am not a chip guy, but now I am a subsystem guy. Right. And if you recall, quantum was born because basically Apple decided to use SCSI instead of IDE interface. And SCSI was niche, or it's better idea, better I/O, but it was niche. And Apple always want to push better technology. And so this was a good fit. So we grew to be I think that my business grew $6 billion in 5 years, and mostly start with Apple, and then adding Compaq and other PC names. And then we acquired then DEC group as well to get into the the high end of servers and others. So it became very big business. But eventually we decided to merge that business with a company named Maxtor.
Oh, yeah.
So as that happens, then of course my job was going to go away because Maxtor is in a way buying Quantum. So I decided then move on to another job.
And did you go looking, or they came after you, or how did that transition happen?
Oh, actually, what happened is I was a board member of this company called Oak Technologies, and Oak was really one of the pioneers for, if you remember, the CD. And then maybe most important contribution Oak made was when the MP3 was popular, people were downloading MP3. Yeah. But then how do you make it your product? And this is where the burn CD idea came, writable CD. So Oak pioneered the writable CD solution. And through that, Oak took off. It had the graphics, competing with NVIDIA. It had the storage business, but storage, the one that at the time really took off. So it was doing well. But there wasn't issues with the CEO at the time, Dave Sang, who wants to retire basically. So the board asked me whether I would be interested in being a CEO of the company. And since the Maxtor Quantum deal is happening, I decided to migrate to a new job, being my own boss, rather than working in a joint venture entity.
Right. So did that mean coming back to the U.S.?
Yeah, I came back to the U.S. already during Quantum days. Okay. I became president of drive business. Okay. So then all the hard drive business was under my P&L.
So what were the major challenges once you were running this whole drive business? What were the major challenges or developments that took place during that period?
Oh, yeah, that's a very interesting question because there is a book called Innovator's Dilemma. Yes. If you read the first page, it will say that if you want to study humans, you study fruit flies because they have a fast life cycle. If you want to study tech product life cycle, you study disk drive business because they have a very fast life cycle. Right. And the business is in a way that are highly execution driven, that are very complex electromechanical technologies that are coming together. So this drive sounds like just some storage, but it had the technology that are really magnetic properties, the motors, the head, they can be able to detect the media that are going under. It's like someone described it as 737 flying 6 feet above the water and not being able to crash. Right. You know, and being able to put amount of storage density that are required. So that was the challenge, but you have to do it in a very quick time because your life cycle is that you're only as good as your last product, and typical life cycle was 9 months. So it was very fast cycle game. So we even wrote a case study on Harvard Business School, how to manage the fast cycle. And then the second one was about how do you manage that? You cannot manage from functionally. You cannot manage from top down. You have to manage with the best people in the team to do it. So we
working closely together.
Working closely. So we call it product team. So product, it's like a company X, responsible product, and all the functional representative like procurement, of course engineering, the marketing, communication, even the HR. They have a cross-functional team, and they're like startup of its own. And their job is to manage the product, because you have to have multiple products to be in the pipe to be successful. And you got also different category, right? You have a 5.25, you have a 3.5, you have a 2.5. So you have to figure out how to build the right product with the right category, and then going after, each product will create $1 billion or $2 billion revenue. So if you miss that, you can really hit companies that are very thin margin business. So I don't know whether you remember, there were 250 disk drive companies at one point.
I remember, yeah.
And then eventually consolidated into few. And Quantum was number 2 at the time. So it's consolidating already. But you have to be on your game, otherwise someone else will take over. So that was the game. So I think what I really appreciate was this high fast cycle. And the only way you can run fast cycle is really using the best people that are in the job and having cross-functionally working together under the common purpose of getting the product out. Good product team.
Right. So this was at Quantum.
Right.
And what about Oak? What were the challenges there?
So basically, then I have become a second CEO of Oak Technologies, and actually I replaced the founder basically, and Dave Sang, great guy, and we built a business, and it was one of those a company that went spectacularly well along the curve of year 1999, year 2000. I remember our stock went like, I don't know, 6 to 30 bucks, 35, and just moving up as we were shipping the burn CD programs, basically. And then dot-com bust came, 2001, excuse me, and just crashed. Yeah. And, all the demand went away. So we have to figure out how to work on it. But, the R&D spending of companies like Oak in the multimedia space is very big. So we have to continue to work on graphics, working on the storage programs, and working on even printer programs. So we were working on multiple programs. But my conclusion is that for Oak to be sustainable, we need to get together with another company that are doing something similar. Israeli company called Zoran. Zoran, and we basically decide maybe it'll be better to combine two companies. By combining, we can be able to compete better against people like NVIDIA or S3, and being able to have your own space. So that was the thesis behind it. So we decided to merge 2003.
So was this, you were doing writable CDs, you were doing graphics, and what was the third business?
Printing.
Printing.
Yeah.
So did all three merge with Zoran, or just the
whole thing merged with Zoran. Okay. So it was a 52-48 merger. So Zoran was 52, we're 48, and Levy decides that he decided to want to be CEO. So then I was forced to take a golden handcuff, I guess, move on, and
back on sabbatical.
Get back on sabbatical again, but it didn't last too long. I guess I got a call from Avago, which is Agilent really at the time, and Agilent Semiconductor presidency is open. Would you be interested in applying for that job? So. It was a very quick decision because culturally, I had an HP experience.
I was about to say, you're coming back to Hewlett Packard because
exactly.
Agilent is a spin-out of Hewlett Packard.
Exactly. So Ned Barnhart was my boss.
Yeah.
Great man, a wonderful leader. And I decided to work for Ned. So be a head of the semiconductor group. And did that. And then we decide maybe it's better. Agilent at the time was too many business, and it couldn't focus on really one, because if you remember Agilent, it was a test and measurement. Yeah. It was also medical instrument, and also had investing in the biotech, drug discovery, and it also had a semiconductor business. So, and semiconductor business takes a lot of investment.
And that was mainly for internal use, right?
It was originally came that way, but then, to survive, they were going outside. So this is genesis of Avago, right? This became Avago. And I recommended that we spin that group out and create its own entity as an independent semiconductor business, because I think pure play would be better than mixed play. And then Silver Lake heard about this and decided to make a bid, and they bought it out. So it was my second sabbatical.
Silver Lake was going to spin it out. I mean, they were funding the spin out, right?
They bought it out with KKR. And so now it's up to Silver Lake and KKR to figure out how to get it go. So that's kind of what happened. And then I took the sabbatical from there. And I took some time off, actually, thinking what I want to do. Maybe I will do an investment, venture capital, thinking around this. So I spent a lot of time at Sandy Road looking at investment side.
Before you get to that, what happened to Avago?
So what happened is the Silver Lake bought it, renamed it under Avago, took it public. To go to public, they hired Hak Tan.
Hired who?
Hak Tan, the CEO of Avago. So Hak Tan came in as a CEO, and then, as you know, it became Broadcom because they bought Broadcom.
Oh, I didn't. That's what it went into Broadcom.
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So this is why Hak Tan is still CEO of combined company.
I see.
Yeah,
okay.
He's been doing it since 2000.
Yeah, I didn't remember that transition. Yeah. Okay.
So that's what happened. And meanwhile, I became advisor to Silver Lake, helping them to figure out what the right combination should be and what do you do the business. So that was part of.
How big was that business when they bought it?
They spent $2.66 billion. It's about a $2 billion business. Around the one, it wasn't. They didn't pay a lot of premium. I can tell you that much if you think about what was in it. Yeah. But at the time, that was the market, right? And it had some great businesses, but also it had some poor business. So it had a really good RF business that was investing for many years, but actually, as you know, usually it takes time to see the output of your investment. Right. And they had this really great product that was filters, programmable filters, acoustic. So using the acoustic, so it's using the waves. You can be able to control. You can program your filter characteristics, and that was one of key technology that Agilent never made money because we keep investing. In fact, I have to protect it because we think it's coming. It only came because the smartphone was coming. And they needed many, many different radios, and you need to program it. When you program it, it made sense. When you're doing it just one filter, it didn't make sense. And it was the product that was ready to go at some point, and finally, when smartphone came, it made the right home. And this is one of the reasons why Avago became very powerful, successful company, because single-sourced. And it's very critical. And the amount of RF only goes up, so it multiplies, and you need more filters. And so become a really good business. Of course, it had many other things, but I think that was one example of a hidden jewel that didn't materialize, but was invested under the hood.
Timing.
Timing is important, and not everybody get benefit of the investment. It depends on when you reap the benefit. Yeah.
So then you moved on. You were doing some consulting with Silver Lake.
I was advisor to Silver Lake, and I was investing at this firm called J.P. Morgan. They had a venture arm, so I was helping them to basically invest, which became Panorama Capital. So I was venture capitalist. I was looking into it. So I was going in, helping to look at the deals. And eventually what happened is then I got a phone call from Liputan said, Young, could you help one of my company?
Had you known him before?
Yeah, I have known him before, and never really worked together as closely. But Dado and Lipu called me, said, we need a CEO that can help this company in Thousand Oaks called Impai. And they have a great team. So I said, what, let me go take a look. And I spent the day, I got back, I like the guys. There are a whole bunch of PhDs that are really, really smart, and they were early. They were early because they were trying to do 40 giga bits per second, so 40 giga solution when the market is 10 gig.
For what
For the
for what
fiber
product?
optic communication,
okay.
the backbone.
Okay.
So they were too early, but they were also doing all the core components. So they had a lot of engineering, but they couldn't materialize. They couldn't generate revenue for what they have because it was way at post-bubble, the market didn't exist. So what do you do? So I went there, 27 engineers.
What year was that?
This was 2007. And so I said, Lipu, Dado, I think maybe they should think about some other business as well, not just, doing optical things, because it may take some time to get there. So, but their core competency is just signal integrity, managing signal, in different media, and it's really an analog scale. So why don't we apply that into bigger market like server? And so they had some project going on already, and we doubled down on it. And so we actually made a mainstream business, and that become a revenue generating business. But underneath, we were investing in where the future is going, which is really the 40 gig, 100 gig. They said it's coming, it's just too early, but let's get prepared. And so we're going to create a cash cow with our server business and creating a technology that can be able to support this.
So in the server business, this was for interprocessor communication or
memory modules. If you look at a lot of the memory card, you need something to amplify signals and being able to switch it, being able to branch it. So that's what they were doing. And so what you're doing is you're working with all the key server guys, design in, and then work with the memory guys to put that into their equation. So that was think of it as interface chip to memory and the CPU, and enabling to run large memory pipes. So that was the business that kind of...
I was in Thousand Oaks. You were up here? Did you...
Oh, I commuted to Thousand Oaks.
Commuted to...
Oh my God, Southwest Air. Every Monday morning, 6:30 a.m., Burbank Airport. And then I come home Thursday. So now, but I didn't know what I was signing up because I was just looking at it, saying maybe it's something we should do. And I kind of like the guys, let's give it a try. I didn't know I was going to do it for so long. So I did it because I love the people there. And actually, Thousand Oaks is a very nice place, very calm. There's more life there. Yeah. But I was commuting. And we then built the PHY business. And the PHY that we built is a 100 gig PHY. It's the first 100 gig PHY that can go into the routers, in the backbone of routers. But you got to have a customer, right? So then I have to go to Cisco, convince Cisco to be the sponsor. Because we couldn't have money to invest on this project, because it cost like $20 million at a time. So we got Cisco to be convinced to be the sponsor. Then I knew that I have a revenue coming, I have a project, I have a story, now I can go IPO. So I basically tagged it, we're the cloud enabling, backbone fabric company. That was our position. And went to IPO 2010, which was a very difficult year, right? Remember, 2008, 2009 was a difficult year. I think 2010, there's only like 5 tech companies went IPO.
Yeah, just coming out of it, right?
Yeah, we were one of them. We went November 14th, we went IPO. And I remember we had 176 employees that year and made 36 millionaires out of the people that was at this program. And remember, they've been at it for over 10 years. This is not a one of those instant millionaire type of company. We were at it 12. By the time we got an IPO, it took 10 years to get there.
But you had to pick the right target application for it and get the partnership with Cisco.
Those are two.
To make it happen.
Yes. But we had a good gene. We had a good technical talent. It was applying it to the right place and applying it with the right partners. And actually the buy, we didn't have a lot of talent for buy, so I have to hire people to enable that. But that was all part of how you build a company, right? And how do you undo the puzzle. And so we went to New York Stock Exchange and ring the bell. But eventually, Inphi got bought out by Mabel, as you know, a few years ago for $10 billion. So that was a good outcome for all the Inphi family members that was there then and all the way.
So, so the challenge in that business was taking this great technology and research and development work that had been done and finding a market for it, right? Finding a way to generate revenue.
Right. It's a classic started and kind of too early in the market, running out of juice, running out of cash. What do you do? How do you repurpose? And then, but using their DNA. And then building but also building a bigger picture than just one, so that you have a better...
Having a vision of what it could be.
Yeah, exactly.
A bigger
and basically
story.
Cloud, 2010, when we went cloud, people thought we were crazy, because cloud wasn't very cloudy.
Yeah.
It was very not clear.
Cloud was cloudy.
Yeah, I remember I came down to a staff meeting, I said, okay guys, coming out of my Burbank airport, driving in to see what we should do. I said, we're going to be a cloud enabling company. They all looked at me and goes, what? We are down here. What do you mean? You're talking about cloud? Is it young, drank something or what, So they all thought I was thinking something else. But I just said, to enable cloud-driven compute infrastructure, you need to have a lot bigger plumbing. To have a big plumbing underneath, you need our chips. We are the guys that drive, helping to move big data. So we can enable data moving plumbing for clouds. That is our position. And that actually worked pretty well. Successful IPO.
So before that, I saw on your resume that you had been involved in the company Synex?
Not much.
Not much?
No,
okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And MIT Media Lab, you had some fun there?
So there are some board roles that I played. So that was a MIT. There is a person, Negroponte, and I got to get to know him. And he said that he wants to create this $100 laptop. And remember, my early days, I worked on laptop. And now he wants to do $100 laptop. So he needed some help. So then I said, I'm actually taking sabbatical, so I got time. And I was thinking maybe I'll go back to MIT and join MIT Media Lab and be a professor. That's what I was thinking, actually. So I went back, spending time with him, met all the professors in MIT Media Lab, and I realized that I don't want to be a professor. I don't want to be in academia. There's just too much about their own things going on. But I want to help the project. So I became a member of the team. I became an advisor. And I traveled to Asia 9 times to find the right partner that can build this MIT-conceived project. It was a lot of trips, but I knew everybody there. And Samsung, LG, Hyundai, they all said, no, it's not a mainstream. We don't want to do this, So I went to Taiwan. And then we met Barry Lam, the founder of Quanta. Quanta was one of the large laptop company back then in Taiwan. So Barry goes, you know what? Not only I'm going to make it for you, I'm going to also donate money to MIT to support this college. Oh my God! So we got actually
double win.
Double win. So now we have a manufacturing partner. Now we have to find the right content to add into our. So we decided for all the MIT Media Lab software that was developed on it. This is the first online educational software that was actually transferring into this media. So things like logo, I mean, this is a old product, but these are the kind of things that kids wants to play with, right? So we're gonna embed that educational software. And then we went to United Nations because Negroponte had some connections to UN. Apparently his brother was a UN member representing the United States. So that was handy. And then we met the whole bunch of Brazil, India, and others, Nigeria. They all want to get $100 laptop for educational purpose. So we built about 4 million of them. But clearly, it wasn't industrial. It was a very interesting project that has several technical contributions. One of them is mesh network. Because a lot of classrooms, they don't have a network. How do you connect? Right. So this is where mesh network really evolved. And then cranking the power generating. So that was the whole idea of really battery-driven management. How do you generate power, support classroom without having electricity? Yeah. Right? We're talking about really basics. And then how do you get a really $100 laptop? In other words, how do you make it really cheap? Mm-hmm. And then how do you get a free content? These are the all contribution that was made that was possible what we are enjoying today. But that was like genesis of how MIT Media Lab was driving. So I think what I like about Negroponte idea was it may be not been commercial success. It may not been 400 million units, but it drove a lot of technologies to enable the future technology enablement. For instance, Taiwan then soon create the better version of our laptop called netbook. So netbook came out, which became genesis of today's iPad. So it's interesting how you see these iterations coming. It doesn't come overnight. It kind of evolves, and someone have to open that door. And I think that was the contribution. So I was involved about 2 years pro bono, supporting the project.
Sounds fun.
It was great. I learned so much, and it's very different. Yeah, it's not very commercial. So motivating lab, faculties, a lot of NGOs, a very different kind of skill than actual commercial side.
That's great. Well, I'm glad we talked about that. Mm-hmm. So your MPhi sold to Marvell. You went IPO. Did you leave after the IPO? Did you?
I left after IPO because I felt I was doing too much commute. 5 years of commute to Thousand Oaks every week was a little too much. And on the top of that, I kind of did my mission of taking company from 30 people to IPO. And so I told the board, I think it would be better to now transition to bring new person in to continue to harvest. And then I will move on to some other projects.
So after that, you were on some boards on Cymer?
Yeah, exactly.
What does Cymer do?
Well, Cymer is a very exciting company. Actually, it's out of UC San Diego. Mm-hmm. There are two, to me, there are great tech companies came out, Qualcomm and Cymer. Mm-hmm. But Cymer is less known because it's an equipment space. It creates the lasers. Remember Star Wars? Star Wars programs in the late 80s and 90s to detect objects that are coming. Yes, right. So they need the powerful lasers. Right. So UC San Diego is working on that. But then the Star Wars program they kind of went away, right? Yeah. So then what do you do? So they decide to repurpose that for developing different type of things. But one area they realized they can do it is, lithography. Mm-hmm. It's about lights. Mm-hmm. And it's about creating a fine light, fine wavelengths. Mm-hmm. So EUV, at the time it's DUV, but DUV, EUV, all these technologies are coming out. So enabling lithography using the latest laser technology. And this is what Cymer's mission was. And they were leader in the light source, along with the Canon and Nikon. Three companies really dominated at the time. But Cymer became the winner. As it became winner, it decided to invest in next generation technology called EUV. Now, if you think about the wavelengths of the chips today, anything below 5 nano, you really need EUV to get the precision. And so EUV was born out of the lab in San Diego.
Yeah. So this was acquired by ASML. So
exactly.
That's the laser technology which goes into their EUV
Absolutely.
lithography machine?
That's why they bought it. And I was at the board at the time. And I think we're going to spend $1 billion a year on investing in this project eventually. And, you know, Cymer was only like $1.5 billion company. How do you invest so much in a project? Yeah. So we decide, you know, we need to have a obvious person that can invest on this, ASML, because they build the whole system. Yeah. We are building subsystem. So let's team up with ASML to make this one happen.
Was the original funding from like Department of Energy or from
I think
US government?
There was a I think even DARPA, and then initially, and then Energy, and then Intel. Okay. Intel actually put a lot of money.
Oh, Intel put money in.
Yeah, to support the ecosystem, because they need it as well. Right. But eventually, ASML bought it, and it took another good 8 years to make it commercial. So I think Cymer, it's a good thing that we sold the company.
Good thing you sold.
And because I think it would have been a real red shirt, you know. Right. Yeah, but eventually the return comes, right? It's a great technology, great enabler. But
it's the only one out there, right?
Yeah.
It's
and you know, ASML with the EUV today is a single sourced. Yeah. Their market cap is over $300 billion.
Each machine is 150 million or something.
Yeah, and these machines are over 200 million euros. Yeah. So it's not cheap.
And sole source to the most critical piece of technology for semiconductors.
Yeah,
right?
TSMC, Intel, Samsung, everybody needs it. It's a kind of interesting story. Actually, I had two boards that are really critical role in industry. One was Cymer, which, you know, I spent 13 years, so it was a very good, long journey. The other is ARM Holdings. And I didn't go early, but I was ARM customer. And then when ARM went down around 2005, post-bubble, they went down. They want to rebuild the board, and they invite me to join the board. I'm very honored, and I spent 12 years with ARM as involving and helping company, and until then eventually got bought out by SoftBank.
You know, VLSI Technology made the first ARM chip.
I remember this.
In 1985, using the tools that we had developed. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that whole story is truly amazing.
You know, VLSI, LSI Logic, all these are very critical companies at the right time. Any one of them could have been NVIDIA.
Yeah, we could have another conversation about that.
Yeah, we can.
So you spent a fair amount of time with Silver Lake Partners, also, and then the next major, with Silver Lake Partners, were there other sort of major companies that you helped launch or steer, or made a significant contribution to in terms of your guidance?
I think there are a number of projects that come and go. So. And as an advisor, you get involved, but I'm not privy to talk about the project natures. But I just say that one, the Avago story, is very clear because I was the CEO and makes sense. But the others, I don't want to comment on it because I'm just one of many contributors to helping them. Right. Yeah.
So then Samsung, 2012, huh?
Right. So during my sabbatical, I'm just doing an advisory role at Silver Lake, and investing in companies my own. In fact, actually, it's funny, in that sabbatical was a very productive time because I got invested in companies like Zoom. So it actually worked out really well. When Zoom, I don't know, Zoom story, but Zoom 2011, December 19th, I met the CEO. Eric Yuan goes,
Is he Korean? Or?
No, he's a Chinese.
Chinese, okay.
And as, we have a mutual friend, and we were talking, and he goes, I cannot raise money. Nobody want to invest in another video conference company, but I know exactly what problem to solve. I think there are three things I can do. I said, what would that be? One is, the whole WebEx, they need a laptop, and it takes a long time to set up. You need a Wi-Fi. I can do it with 3G. I have a compression engine that I developed. I believe I can be able to do it much less bandwidth. And smartphone is going to be everywhere, so I can enable people to use not just a laptop, but smartphone. And I also think the cloud is coming, so I can give you a cloud link. And so you don't have to download the whole thing and run it in your computer. You can just hit the link and it goes back, and then you run out of a cloud. When I heard that, and then third thing is I'm going to give it free to consumers and charge enterprise. When I heard 1, 2, 3, I said, you know what? I think it's enough of technical merit. I think you know what you're doing. So I'll write a check, but it wouldn't be the last check because you'll need a lot more money, but let me help you. So a few of our friends put together $750,000 that I think went in. And eventually, as you know, became a very, very important tool during pandemic.
Then the pandemic arrived, and all of a sudden
it went crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody expected it. I would have been very happy. They were just hitting double-digit billion exit. I didn't expect they would get to triple-digit billions. So I learned that investment can be really fun, and supporting startups is also part of what we do, right? Because we learn so much. Why not share and encourage the new entrepreneurs to be the next Intel? Right. Yeah. Right.
So Samsung, how did that come around again to Samsung?
Yeah, so Samsung knew me from 84, 85 time frame. So they always want to ask me to come back. And I just said, no, I'm very busy with my projects. But I always had a good relationship. They were my customer. They were also building my chips. So we always had a relationship that are ongoing for a long time. But but at that moment, I didn't have a lot to do because I was a free man. And so I said, maybe I'll just do 1 day a week to help you. So chairman asked me, so I said, okay, I'll do 1 day a week. And then what happened is it became a 2 day a week. Because what they did was I couldn't be just advisor to chairman and CEO. They need to give me a title to be effective at an organization like Samsung. So they made me a president and chief strategy officer, which is a title, sounds like just title, but actually, like in military, if you have a title, you have a duty, and you have obligation, and you have certain hierarchy at Samsung. So now you have to fit in. So then all of a sudden, 1 day, 2 day become full-time job. And I wanted to do like 3 years, thinking that I will just support where I came from, support people that I liked, and then help them with some new ideas and move on, 11 years. I'm still on it, actually. I'm still chairman of one of Samsung company and still advise the chairman. So in a way, once you have the relationship, it's not like you cannot really, it goes on.
Right. So you had the title president, but you didn't have the organizational responsibility that normally comes with that, right?
So there are 3 presidents.
Okay.
Each president has organizational responsibility with one is the semiconductor, one is mobile, one was the consumer electronics. Well, what I got was everything else. Okay. So I have to worry about M&A, I have to worry about investment, but most importantly, creating innovation. I see. Okay. Through innovation, creating a new business. So I have that organization.
Is there anything you can speak about in terms of sort of major developments in that regard?
Oh, I think if you actually go through YouTube, some of the things you may see it. But I'll give some examples. Like we announced the one of the platforms to measure your body, to understand better your body through what I call voice of the body. So how do you learn more about our bodies through understanding through sensors? They can be able to monitor your temperature even, your heart rate variability, your blood pressure, and even eventually glucose levels. They can help you to understand your ability to metabolize things. So these are some of the things that we really earmarked, and we said we want to understand better. But actually, body is not like IT. It's much more complex and unknown. It takes much more time. So it's ongoing, but you see some of the products like Samsung mobile watch now has ability to measure blood pressure, and they came out of that program. There's some autonomous driving project that people may not know that was ongoing. Some of the technology enabled better imaging technology, better algorithms that are now going into imaging sensors that are going into Tesla, for instance. So there's a whole bunch of innovations that are fusing like this, that are creating the best business that came out of Samsung that are new last 10 years is probably biology. Samsung is actually very big in drug discovery, drug manufacturing. Nobody knows about it because it's very new, but also it makes it for other people. So,
technologies to enable that or to actually do the drug research themselves?
Oh, very good. So the way it started is there a ways we can leverage Samsung's DNA for biology? And we learned actually the manufacturing know-how of semiconductor can be relevant to drugs. The ability to have a very clean, ability to track your wafers, ability to have a regulatory gas and all those infrastructure. We learned that actually there's a lot of manufacturing knowledge we can apply to creating a drug production. So we become foundry of drugs. Think of TSMC of, let's say, for instance, antibody drugs. Samsung is one of the largest makers of antibody drugs for other drug brand. In a way, the way Samsung started memory business with Intel, right? There's certain parallel learning that are going on, but that's how it began. And then next thing you do is then you develop your own drugs, and that's the next step that Samsung is embarking on.
So one of the companies you said you were involved in, or you're still chairman of, is Harman?
Right.
Tell me about sort of, you acquired, Samsung had acquired Harman, correct?
Right, exactly.
And what was the driving force there? Harman is in so many different businesses.
Right.
Tell me.
So Harman, so 2016, so my title was Chief Strategy Officer as well. So my job was to figure out where should we expand our business. And at that year, we decided automobile is going to be a very important part of the future because of four things: electrification, because of connectivity, because of the interface with the mobile. So the content is moving from home to your car, to your work, and the user interface requires a display. And those are the four things we saw that's coming. And we said, we need to double down on understanding this business. But if you're not in the business, how do you learn about the business? So we decided, looking at the target that can bring that capacity and capability. Harman had one more thing. Harman is also a sound company, audio company. It has 70 years of audio history. And the Samsung has a really good video, but our audio wasn't as strong. Combination of video and their audio together, we can give much better user experience. So this is the thesis behind our M&A. And then I looked at all options for supporting this thesis. And Harman came into our radar. The problem was it's too expensive at the time. It's like $124 at the time when we were looking at it. So I said, I think the right time is not now. Let's wait. So we're waiting. And then it went down to about $84 because auto business was slowing down. So then this is where I called a friend, helped me to introduce the CEO. So I think we met, it's in public. We met September 7th, first time, 2016. And then 7 weeks later, we made the M&A deal and announced November 14th. Most people think the large Korean companies are slow, but actually when they know the target, they can go much faster than you can imagine.
So there are many pieces of Harman, and many of those can work with or bring advantage to various segments of Samsung. The audio working with the display group, and there's some automobile communications technology and
5G.
But also V2X.
Yeah, exactly. So that is the basically network really. So it's a network detection so that you know where the other, let's say, cars or other signal generating, as long as it's the same wavelengths. So I think there's a lot of interesting synergy, but the Harman is also a very well-known brand. JBL, right? Basically they're number one audio brand if you take out the ear plugs. So I think that is the business that also has tremendous sub-brand that we can be able to take advantage of. But I think what Harman brought really is our automotive relationship. Samsung's automotive profile is really big now. They are in battery business, they are networking business, display, memory, SoCs, and Harman is integrator of these. Obviously, Samsung components sells to all auto companies, but having a tier one that are right in your home helps you to improve knowledge base and customer contact as well.
So the other thing you're involved in is Cadence. You've been on the board of directors there for the last 10 years or so. Was that through the relationship with Lip-Bu Tan, or how did that come about?
Yeah, so Lip-Bu was in my board when I was in Inphi. And then when I decided to retire from Inphi, he asked me whether I was interested in applying. And I did and joined the board 2012. And the role and importance of the design technology is really critical, right? You cannot design chips. You cannot design systems without software that are enabling it. And most people doesn't know it, but we take things granted when you see large chips coming out and it's working, whether it's an NVIDIA chips or Intel chips, whatever. It's because we have great tools that are helping us design better, being able to test out the corner cases, so that when you have 100 billion transistors coming out, it's working. It's not magic. It's because all the engineering went in over the years, and you're in there too, to enabling this ecosystem.
No, I'm very familiar with that challenge. So you're also involved in the Extreme Tech Challenge?
Right. So 2012 again, it's funny when you
2012 is a big year.
Yeah, because you have time. When you're taking sabbatical, like that, the time of retirement, like, in between, you do some things, you don't just sit down. So I decided, you know what, I want to spend more time on my passion and also do something about technology for better, technology for good. So I was wondering how I can do that. So my friend Bill Tai, who is a phenomenal investor, we also invest in Zoom. So we are in it together. And he and I together worked on a project called Extreme Tech Challenge, which is basically, in the beginning, was a bunch of kite surfing guys getting together in Hawaii, justifying what are we going to do something good. So it was a more fun gathering and discussing it and looking at some startups that can contribute to the world. And that was how it began. Mm-hmm. And then over the years, the program get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then program even went to Brazil and program even went to Europe. So all of a sudden now we are getting scale. So we decide, that was phase one. So we're still managing it for fun. Nobody's working full time, just kind of doing it as it comes. And we call our friends for help. And it kind of worked, Mm-hmm. And then the phase two was when I decide, at Samsung, I decide, I want to make it something bigger. So I decide, make it as a mainstream program. So I decided to spend more time on it and hire people to actually run it as a nonprofit. So
tell us briefly what it is.
Okay.
Describe the.
All right. Extreme Tech Challenge is basically the largest global competition for startups for supporting UN 17 sustainability. So extremetechchallenge.org. And we have a number, thousands of startups apply. And then we give them visibility through the championship and TechCrunch and other events. And these companies then get visibility to get funding. And I think that over the years, we tracked our companies that applied, that are in competition in the final. They have collectively raised like $4.2 billion from venture funding. So my job is done when they get funded. My job is really encouraging them to do the right thing, supporting sustainability, and then making sure corporations, venture capital community support it. So creating a highway for startups for sustainability areas around the world. So now we have an event in Norway for the water. We have an event in Japan. We have events around the world. Most of them are run through the volunteers. We have several hundred volunteers that are supporting to this program, and it's becoming it is the largest global startup competition.
Fascinating. And now you've started up another venture firm, Walden.
Right.
Ventures.
So I retired 2021 from Samsung, and I'm still an advisor, but in a way, operationally, I'm done. So I was thinking how I want to spend my time, and Lip-Bu Tan was also planning to retire from Cadence at the time. So both of us said, we're both retiring from operation, but we are both investing together for the last 20 years. Why don't we formalize this together? So we create his Walden, my Catalyst at Samsung, combine the name called Walden Catalyst, and then we combine some of the team members and made a fund, working on really back to our root. I am really working on how the Silicon Valley was made, which is really around core technology. So we are investing chips. We've been investing in chips when everybody ran away investing in chips. I don't know if you recall 10 years ago, if you said you're investing in chips, nobody will talk to you.
I'm well familiar with this challenge.
But Lip-Bu and I were supporting because Lip-Bu had his belief, and I had Samsung. Samsung is a chip company, and so we continue to have to do it. So both of us are continuing supporting chips. And frankly, the last 5 years, there has been some great successful outcome. Habana went to Intel, Nubia went to Qualcomm. Companies like, Samba Nova is trying to push the envelope of, where AI is, hopefully some competition to, NVIDIA and others. But so basically, we are encouraging this new generation of companies. We're even supporting companies that are doing RISC-V to support the next generation, because ARM architecture has been around a long time. So ARM is a great company. It's going to continue to do well. But having an open architecture gives some more ownership for everybody with a much lower barrier to get in. So I think it's the next thing. So we invest in next wave and next inflection point, and this is what we love to do with our fund.
So are you looking beyond chips? And I mean, are you open to various other technologies that you're looking at?
Right. I think the reality is that chip just one of the puzzle to enable to push new technologies. So our focus is in AI and data. Anything that are enabling scalable AI and data infrastructure. So I talked about the next generation. It'll be great to create NVIDIA 2.0, for instance. It'll be great to create Snowflake 2.0 that can do a lot bigger analytic engines that are much cheaper and faster. It'll be great to create a company that can create next OpenAI. So these are the kind of things that we're looking at within the AI space and investing.
So have I missed anything important? How's your family? Is your children
I have
followed in your footsteps, or?
Actually, I have 3 children, and they are all around home, so which means Bay Area. And one is a sound engineer, so his passion is the music, and he's a DJ, and he works part-time with me as well in my family fund. So remember I mentioned about Zoom and companies like that. It was really my family fund that I create to invest in startups. And he's working in that area as well. But his primary interest is music. And then my second son is data scientist. And that he is really into looking at data-driven companies, especially intersection of biology and tech. So his background was like he worked on biome study, and he realized how little we know about connection between stomach and your brain, but it's huge connections, but we don't know. And so he liked to know more about using data to understand our body. And then in the process, he became investing in companies with me. So family fund again, so he's doing that. My daughter is marketing, and she's working in the marketing company, Sophie, and she's their marketing person.
Which company?
SoFi.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, anybody who understands data and data analysis or whatever is in high demand these days. So
exactly.
I'm sure.
Yeah. In fact, he went to school in Europe, in the Leuven University. Tanda Leuven University in Belgium has really good semiconductor centers, but they also have very good data science. And the best thing about going to school there is it's free. I remember he came to school and said, Dad, I need $400 for my thing. I said, do you miss any zeros there? Isn't it like $40,000? He goes, no. It's free in Europe, like some extra bonus. I couldn't believe that.
I have a nephew who discovered that too and went to school in Germany. It's free, you can come.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Great education too, so wonderful.
So one of the things we like to ask people like yourself is, you're working with all these startups and people with new ideas. What advice do you give to people entering the business or people going into college? Things. What should I pursue? Where do you think the opportunities are?
I think what's important is the mindset and believing in himself or herself that they can learn, they can fail, they can learn again, and just believe that first failure is not the end. But you can actually learn, because I had a first failure. I could easily shy away from entrepreneurship. But I always try new things. And even if you are in a company, big company like Intel, you can still be an entrepreneur. And the managers love entrepreneurs that bring new ideas, challenging ideas. Because entrepreneurs, one of the things about entrepreneurs is they own it, ownership. Yeah. And ownership is important no matter where you go.
Well, that's great. Did we miss any major topics, things you'd like to?
Well, you can ask me what my hobby is. Like,
what's your hobby? Oh, I'm glad you suggested.
Well, I do have a lot of
Sounds like your hobby is investing, but what is your hobby?
Oh no, I'm a big believer of life balance, work balance. So I love exercising. So every morning when I get up, I will try to work out about an hour. This morning I swam. Yesterday I did cycling before the work, So I like to do it first thing in the morning because there's no excuse. Right. Once the day begins, there's many reasons why you don't wear to work out, Exactly. Then if I really don't have time, then I'll do yoga, and then I'll do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups. And
100 push-ups and sit-ups.
Oh, and 100 jumps. This is the minimum time, but you can get maximum exercise. So this is a combination. But my hobby really is about traveling. Love to learn about other culture because I come from other culture. And just the learning about others is always things to do. I'm learning some French right now. I learned some German and spent some time in Germany. So I like to continue to evolve myself by, some people do Sudoku, I will learn some new languages, you know, because I can then relate and you can use it better. You get some survivor languages that are very useful and makes it more friendlier when you meet people around the world because they feel like, you know, much closer to you when you do that. And then I do kite surfing. That's probably
Yeah, you mentioned that. Where do you do your kite surfing?
Well, I have a place in Hawaii, so I used to do that there. But also Bay Area is really good. There is always some wind, actually, in the summertime under the Golden Gate Bridge or the Avondale, which is where the waves are. Now, there's some white sharks out there, too, so better watch out. And then sometimes when there's no other option, I'll go to Delta. Delta is always blowing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is always blowing. So have you actually gone under the Golden Gate Bridge?
I got rescued by Coast Guard.
Oh, you got arrested.
Yeah, it was a, you know, so much my second year, it was 2005. Bill Ty and I was out there. And he goes, yeah, Young, you know, come on over, follow me. So I'm just following him. And then he didn't tell me there's something called big wind shadow, you know, the big towers. The towers are great for hanging bridges, but it's horrible for wind people because when you go behind that, it's a dead spot. And I'm just flying, and then all of a sudden I just, bang, my kite went down and popped. My body flew in the air because someone hit the brake because there's no wind. So when you're going 25 knots and then to zero, your body will fly and things will happen to you. So I'm like now dragging out to the ocean. And I'm like, shoot, I'm going to be in the white shark territory. You know, there's a red buoy, which is the kind of a last place where the ferries come and go around, the tourist ferries. I'm not going outside of the ferry, you know, the red buoy. I'm thinking, uh-oh, I'm in real trouble. And then one of the friends who watched this called the 911. He's using his BlackBerry.
Oh.
BlackBerry, remember?
BlackBerry, old technology.
BlackBerry saved me. It worked. So then within like 15 minutes, Coast Guard came and rescued in, and then we kept back in it. Wow. And they didn't charge me, actually. I thought they were going to charge me, you know. Actually, the funny part is that it didn't quite, as that happens, I got in under the Golden Gate Bridge. But this is 2005. And as I got Golden Gate Bridge, because I have to park my kite, you know, bring things in, I saw this Marine with a machine gun pointing at me, thinking that I could be like terrorist. It was a scary moment. I said, yeah, Mayday, Mayday, I need help. Please get me a Rangers. I need to go back.
Well, that's a great story. I'm glad you brought it up. That's just the sort of thing that we're looking for.
I met so many interesting people like kite surfing. You know, there's a certain tempo that are there, speed, risk taking, and a lot of entrepreneurs that I met are actually coming to events like this, and I meet. And I remember this one probably on our better investment is also. This lady heard about our gathering, you know, kite surfing group that are looking at startups. So Melanie Perkins, 23-year-old teacher, she had this idea of creating a product, or, you know, basically designing your web design better. So she created this company called Canva.
Oh, I know about Canva.
From Perth.
Yeah.
So she came over, present to us, and some of us started investing in her. That's how she got funded.
My wife is a huge fan of Canva.
Well, she had an opportunity because she met some entrepreneurs that are willing to back her, and we actually still involved in supporting her, my friends group.
So she's a kite surfer as well?
Well, actually, she pretended to be, but she actually did not kite surf. She just want to show up to get our attention. With her fiance, are so funny, yeah. So there's a lot of stories like this. You know, entrepreneurs do what you have to do to get attention of money guys.
Yeah, exactly.
And the money guys, if you see someone that are really trying hard, you got to give them second chance.
All right. Well, I think that was a great couple of hours, and I really appreciate your spending the time with us. Great insights and great stories. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.